Dr. Elena Vasquez rubbed her tired eyes and looked at the computer screen again. The numbers were still there, blinking red against the black background. She'd been working at the Arecibo successor array for 12 years, listening to space for any sign of alien life. Most nights, she heard nothing but the quiet hum of distant stars. Tonight was different. The signal had started 3 hours ago. At first, Elena thought it was just another false alarm. Space was full of strange signals that turned out to be nothing special. Old satellites, solar storms, or equipment problems usually caused them. But this signal was not like the others. It was too organized, too purposeful. It had patterns that reminded her of language. Elena called her friend, Dr. James Park, who worked in the quantum linguistics lab. "James, I need you to look at something," she said into her phone. "Can you come to the array right now?" "Elena, it's 2 in the morning," James replied, his voice thick with sleep. "I think we found something real this time." 20 minutes later, James arrived with coffee and his laptop. He looked at Elena's data, and his sleepy expression changed to excitement. "This is not random noise," he said. "This looks like actual communication. Where is it coming from?" Elena pointed to her star chart on the wall. "Kepler 442b system. About 1,200 light-years away. The signal is very weak, but our new equipment can pick it up." James plugged his laptop into Elena's computer and started running his translation programs. The quantum linguistic algorithms were designed to find patterns in unknown languages. They had never been tested on real alien communication before. Hours passed. Elena brought more coffee while James worked. Outside, the sun began to rise over the radio dishes that pointed toward space. Other workers arrived for the morning shift, but Elena told them to stay quiet. She did not want to get everyone excited if this turned out to be nothing. At 8 in the morning, James suddenly sat up straight. "Elena, come look at this." On his screen were words in English. The computer had found enough patterns to start translating the alien message. Elena read the first few lines and felt her heart race. "We are the Thylorians of the third planet in what you call the Kepler 442 system. If anyone receives this message, please know that we tried to survive. We tried to fight. But they are too strong." Elena and James looked at each other. This was really happening. They were reading a message from aliens. The translation continued. "The Dominion Collective came to our world 50 years ago. At first they seemed peaceful. They said they wanted to trade and share knowledge. We welcomed them because we believed in friendship between different species." Elena felt a chill as she read on. "We were wrong. The Dominion does not want friendship. They see other species as things to be used. It took our people for experiments. They stole our resources. They turned our own children against us by changing their minds with terrible machines." The message described a war that lasted decades. The Thylorians had been an advanced species, more advanced than humans, at faster than light travel, energy weapons, and cities that floated in the sky. But none of it had been enough to stop the Dominion. "We fought with everything we had," the message said. "Our scientists created new weapons. Soldiers died bravely in battles among the stars. But the Dominion has conquered many worlds before ours. They know how to break the spirit of entire species." Elena scrolled down to read more. The message included detailed information about Dominion ships, weapons, and tactics. It was like reading a military report from a war that happened more than 1,000 years ago. "The Dominion fleet is made of ships the size of your cities. Their hulls are protected by energy shields that can stop most weapons. They use plasma cannons that can burn through solid rock. Their soldiers wear armor that makes them almost impossible to kill. But the most frightening part came next. The Dominion does not just conquer worlds. They study each species they defeat. They learn about their technology, their biology, and their weaknesses. Then they use this knowledge to conquer the next species more easily. Each victory makes them stronger." James pointed to a section of the message that his computer had marked as important. "Elena, look at this part." As the message continued, "We know our time is almost over. Our last city is surrounded. But before we die, we want to give other species a chance to survive. We have included in this message everything we learned about the Dominion. Their ship designs, their weapon weaknesses, and most importantly, their location." Lena felt her mouth go dry as she read the coordinates. The Dominion's main fleet was not in some distant galaxy. They were much closer than that. We discovered that the Dominion is moving toward your section of the galaxy, the message said. They have already detected signals from several worlds in your area. One of those worlds sends particularly strong radio transmissions. We believe you call it Earth. The message was dated according to Thylorian calendar systems, but James's computer had converted it to Earth time. The Thylorians had sent this message 1,200 years ago, but because of the distance, it was just reaching Earth now. We are sorry that we could not stop them, the message concluded, but perhaps you can do what we could not. We have seen your radio signals, and they show that your species is young and aggressive. Maybe that will be enough. Do not make our mistakes. Do not trust them when they come in peace. Do not try to negotiate. Fight them with everything you have from the first moment they arrive. It is your only chance. The transmission ended with star charts showing the location of the Dominion fleet and technical specifications for their ships. Then came the final lines that made Elena's blood turn cold. We are the last of our kind. In a few hours, our city will fall. If any civilization receives this message, remember us. Remember the Thylorians who tried to warn you? And if you survive, what is coming? Make sure the Dominion never threatens another innocent world again. Elena and James sat in silence for several minutes. Finally, James spoke in a whisper. Elena, we need to call someone. I got the government, the military, someone in charge. Elena was already reaching for her phone when alarms started going off throughout the facility. Red lights flashed as emergency broadcasts filled the radio channels. Elena ran to the main communications center where other scientists were gathering around the news feeds. On every screen was the same message from deep space monitoring stations around the world. Massive energy signatures had been detected moving toward Earth's sector of the galaxy. The signals matched the technical specifications that the Thylorians had just sent them. The Dominion had found Earth. The emergency meeting room in Geneva was filled with the most powerful people on Earth. President Sarah Kim of the United Nations sat at the head of the long table. Around her were prime ministers, generals, scientists, and defense ministers. From every major nation, the room buzzed with worried conversations in dozens of languages. Admiral Chen Martinez stood at the front of the room next to a large screen. His uniform was perfectly pressed, but his face showed the stress of the past 3 days. Since Dr. Vasquez had discovered the alien message, no one in the world's governments had slept much. Ladies and gentlemen, Admiral Martinez said in a loud voice. The room became quiet. We have confirmed the threat. Our deep space sensors have detected a fleet of ships moving toward our solar system. Based on the Thylorian data, we estimate they will arrive in 18 months. A woman in a blue suit raised her hand. How many ships are we talking about, Admiral? At least 300 vessels, Madam President. Each one is the size of a small city. Their weapons can destroy entire continents from space. President Kim stood up slowly. She was a small woman with gray hair, but her voice was strong. Are we certain they mean to attack us? Perhaps we can communicate with them. Maybe they have changed since they fought the Thylorians. General Hassan Arushid, a tall man with dark skin and serious eyes, shook his head. Madam President, the Thylorian message was very clear. The Dominion does not negotiate. They conquer or they destroy. There is no third option. Dr. Vasquez sat near the back of the room. She had been invited because she was the first person to hear the alien message. Now she watched as the leaders of Earth argued about humanity's future. We should hide, said Minister Zhang from China. Turn off all our radio signals. Stop broadcasting into space. Maybe they will pass by our system without noticing us. That is foolish, replied General Al-Rashid. They already know we are here. The Thylorians told us the Dominion detected our radio signals. We cannot hide from them now. President Kim looked tired. Then what do you suggest, General? Our weapons are primitive compared to theirs. Our fastest ships take months to reach Mars. How can we fight an enemy that travels between stars? We prepare for war, the general said simply. We unite every nation on Earth. We build weapons. We train soldiers. We make them pay for every inch of our world. Many people in the room started talking at once. Some agreed with the general. Others thought it was suicide to fight such a powerful enemy. Arguments grew louder and more heated. Dr. Vasquez stood up. "Excuse me," she said, but no one heard her over the shouting. "Excuse me," she said, much louder. The room became quiet again. All eyes turned to the young scientist. "There is something else in the Thalorian message," she said. "Something I have not told you yet." Admiral Martinez frowned. "What do you mean, Doctor?" Alina walked to the front of the room. Her hands shook a little as she connected her laptop to the main screen. James and I found a hidden section in the transmission. It was encrypted differently from the rest of the message. We only finished decoding it this morning. The text appeared on the screen. Lena read it aloud. "To whoever receives this message, we give you our final gift. We have spent 50 years fighting the Dominion. We learned their weaknesses. We discovered how to hurt them, but we learned this knowledge too late to save ourselves. Perhaps you will be smarter than we were." The room was completely silent now. Alina continued reading. "The Dominion believes they are perfect. They think their technology cannot be defeated. This arrogance is their weakness. Their ships have strong shields, but the shields have a frequency that changes in predictable patterns. Their weapons are powerful, but they overheat if fired too quickly. Their soldiers are tough, but their armor has weak spots that we found through painful experience." Lena clicked to the next page. The Thalorians included detailed technical information, ship designs, weapon specifications, shield frequencies, even the layout of Dominion command centers. They studied their enemies for 50 years and gave us everything they learned. General Aroshid stepped closer to the screen. "This changes everything. With this information, we can build weapons designed specifically to fight them." "But can we build enough weapons in 18 months? Asked President Kim. Dr. James Park, who had been quiet until now, stood up from his seat. "Madam President, humans have done impossible things before. We went from the first airplane to landing on the moon in 66 years. We built the internet. In a few decades, when humans work together with a common goal, we can accomplish anything." Minister Zhang still looked worried. "But this is different. We are talking about fighting aliens with technology far beyond ours." Alina clicked to another page of the Thalorian data. The Thalorians made a mistake. They tried to fight the Dominion using honor and traditional military tactics. They met the enemy in open space battles. They followed rules of war. The Dominion does not follow rules. "What are you suggesting?" asked President Kim. "We fight dirty," said General Al-Rashid with a grim smile. "Humans have been fighting dirty for thousands of years. We use guerrilla tactics. We set traps. We attack when they do not expect it. We make them afraid." Elena nodded. "The Thalorians wrote that the Dominion has conquered 17 species, but they have never faced humans. Every species they fought before was peaceful and civilized. We are not." An old man in a military uniform spoke up. "Young lady, are you saying we should abandon our civilization, become savages?" "No, sir," Elena replied. "I am saying we should remember that we are predators. For most of human history, we survived by being smarter and more vicious than anything that wanted to kill us. Now something wants to kill all of us. Maybe it is time to remind the galaxy why humans climbed to the top of the food chain on Earth." President Kim walked slowly around the table. She stopped in front of a world map that showed all the nations represented in the room. "If we choose to fight, it cannot be as separate countries. It must be as one species, one world, one military force. The United Earth Defense Force," said Admiral Martinez. "Every soldier, every scientist, every factory working toward one goal." "And what goal is that?" asked Minister Zhang. General Al-Rushed answered without hesitation. "Survival. No matter what it costs, no matter what we have to become, we will not go quietly into extinction like the Thalorians did." President Kim looked around the room at all the faces watching her, all in favor of immediate military preparation and the formation of a unified Earth Defense Force. Hands went up slowly around the table. First the military officers, then the scientists, then the politicians. Even Minister Zhang raised his hand after a long pause. "All opposed? No hands were raised? Then it is decided," President Kim said. "As of this moment, every nation on Earth is at war, not with each other, but with an enemy coming from the stars. We have 18 months to prepare. Let us make sure it is enough. Lena looked at the Thalorian message still displayed on the screen. The aliens had sent humanity more than a warning. It had sent them hope. And now, humanity would do what the Thalorians could not. They would win. 6 months had passed since the emergency meeting in Geneva. Earth looked very different now. Where once there had been peaceful cities and quiet farmland, massive construction projects stretched across every continent. The planet hummed with constant activity as humanity prepared for war. Maria Santos drove her truck through the Australian desert toward the new facility called Site Alpha. Behind her, a convoy of vehicles carried workers, equipment, and materials. The road had not existed 3 months ago. Now it was a highway leading to one of the most important places on Earth. Site Alpha rose from the red sand like a metal mountain. It was the largest weapons factory ever built by humans. The facility was so big that it had its own power plant, its own water system, and housing for 50,000 workers. Maria had helped design the place, and even she was amazed by how quickly it had grown. Inside the main building, Dr. Yuki Tanaka worked with a team of engineers on humanity's new weapons. They called their project the Dominion Killers. Using the Thalorian technical data, they had designed missiles specifically to penetrate alien shields and guns that could fire fast enough to overwhelm Dominion defenses. The frequency modulation is working perfectly, Dr. Tanaka said to her assistant. She pointed to the test results on her computer screen. Our new plasma cannons will punch right through their shield systems. Her assistant, a young man named Marcus, looked worried. But will we have enough ammunition? The Thalorian said. Each Dominion ship carries thousands of fighters. That is why we are not just building weapons, Dr. Tanaka replied. We are building weapons that build more weapons, orbit around Earth. Construction robots worked day and night on the Luna defense platform. The moon was being turned into a giant fortress. Its surface was covered with missile launchers, energy cannons, and shield generators. Deep inside the lunar rock, engineers had built factories that could produce new weapons even during battle. Admiral Martinez floated in zero gravity inside the command center on Luna. Through the wide windows, he could see Earth hanging in space like a blue marble. It looked peaceful from here, but he knew that every part of that planet was preparing for war. Admiral, we have a report from the Mars Project, said Lieutenant Sarah Chen, his communications officer. Martinez pushed himself over to the communications console. On the screen was Colonel Jackson, commander of the Mars base. Behind him, Martinez could see the red landscape of humanity's second home. Admiral, Phase 1 is complete, Colonel Jackson reported. We have finished the underground command bunkers. If Earth falls, humanity's government can continue operating from here. What about Phase 2? Martinez asked. The shipyards are ahead of schedule, sir. We will have our first battle cruiser ready for testing next month. Martinez nodded. Mars had become humanity's backup plan. If the Dominion destroyed Earth, the human species would survive on the red planet. But more importantly, Mars was building the ships that would carry humanity's revenge to the stars. On Earth, General Rashid stood in the command center of the African space elevator. The massive structure stretched from the ground to a space station far above the atmosphere. Giant cargo pods rode up and down the elevator cables, carrying materials to the orbital shipyards. General, the morning delivery is complete, reported his aide. 200 tons of processed titanium and 50 tons of rare earth metals. And the afternoon shipment? Al-Rashid asked. 100 combat drones and the new stealth fighters from the European factories. Al-Rashid smiled grimly. The space elevators had changed everything. Before the war preparations began, it took enormous rockets and massive amounts of fuel to send anything into space. Now, the elevators could lift thousands of tons of cargo every day using clean energy from orbital solar panels. But the most important work was happening in secret locations around the solar system. Dr. Vasquez now worked at a hidden facility on one of Jupiter's moons. Her job was to prepare humanity's most dangerous weapons. Alina, are you sure this will work? Asked Dr. Park. He stood next to her in a laboratory deep beneath the ice of Europa. Alina looked at the device they had built, using Thylorian scientific data. It was small, about the size of a briefcase, but it contained enough destructive power to crack a moon in half. The theory is sound. The Thylorians proved it works on a smaller scale. But they never actually used one of these against the Dominion, Dr. Park pointed out, because they were too civilized, Alina replied. They thought weapons like this were too terrible to use. We are not that civilized. The device was called a quantum destabilizer. It could make the atoms in any material fall apart. The Thylorians had designed it as a mining tool, but Alina and her team had turned it into a weapon. One quantum destabilizer could destroy an entire Dominion ship in seconds. Back on Earth, President Kim toured a training facility in North America. Thousands of soldiers practiced fighting in conditions designed to copy what they might face against Dominion forces. The training was harsh and dangerous, but volunteers came from every country on the planet. How many active soldiers do we have now? President Kim asked General Al-Rashid, who was walking beside her. Million, Madam President, and that number grows every day. People understand what we are fighting for. They stopped to watch a group of pilots training in simulators. The machines looked like video game systems, but they were exact copies of the cockpits in humanity's new fighter ships. The pilots inside were practicing attack patterns based on Thylorian battle reports. Our pilots are getting very good, the general continued. But the real advantage is our new strategy. The Dominion expects enemies to fight like the Thylorians did. They expect honor and predictable tactics. We will not give them that, President Kim said. No, Madame President. We'll give them something they have never seen before. We will fight like humans. In space, hidden fleets of human ships waited in the darkness between planets. These were not the big, obvious warships that the Dominion would expect. They were small, fast vessels designed to strike quickly and disappear. Each ship carried a crew of volunteers who knew they might not survive the coming battle. Captain Liu Wei commanded one of these hidden fleets near the asteroid belt. His ships looked like ordinary mining vessels from the outside, but they carried enough firepower to destroy much larger enemies. His crew had trained for months to fight from ambush. Captain, we have new orders from Earth Command, his communications officer reported. Liu Wei read the message on his screen. The Dominion fleet had been detected at the edge of the solar system. They would arrive at Earth in less than 2 months. Send a message to all ships in the fleet, Liu Wei ordered. Tell them it is almost time. Tell them to remember what we are fighting for. As the message spread through the hidden fleet, Liu Wei looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, an alien enemy was coming to destroy everything he loved. But they would find that humanity was not like the other species they had conquered. Humans had spent thousands of years learning how to kill things that were bigger and stronger than they were. They had hunted mammoths with spears, fought lions with simple tools, and conquered their entire planet using nothing but intelligence and determination. Now they would show the Dominion what happened when. Predators were backed into a corner. The preparation phase was almost over. Soon, it would be time to find out if 18 months of frantic work had been enough. But Liu Wei was not afraid. Humans had always been good at one thing, above all others. They were very good at war. The Dominion fleet arrived exactly when the computers had predicted. 300 massive ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. Each vessel was the size of a city, covered in weapons and armor that had conquered 17 different species. On the command ship, Eternal Dominance. Overlord Zactyl studied the data about the third planet. His species had been conquering worlds for thousands of years. This should be another easy victory, Report Zactyl commanded. His voice echoed through the bridge where dozens of alien officers worked at control stations. The planet shows signs of advanced technology, Overlord replied his intelligence officer. They have satellites, radio transmissions, and what appears to be a space elevator. Zactyl made a sound that might have been laughter. Another species that thinks metal and electronics will save them. Have they responded to our presence? No, Overlord. Our sensors detect no military activity. A few small ships moving between planets, but nothing that could threaten us. This was exactly what Zactyl expected. Most species panicked when the Dominion arrived. They either tried to run, hide, or surrender immediately. Very few had the courage to fight, and those that did were quickly crushed. "Open a communication channel to the planet," Zakthal ordered. The main screen showed Earth hanging in space. It looked blue and green and peaceful. Zakthal had seen many beautiful worlds. He would take what was useful from this one and burn the rest. "Creatures of the third planet," Zakthal announced. "I am Overlord Zakthal of the Dominion Collective. Your world now belongs to us. We will surrender all weapons and technology. Your population will be processed for useful genetic material. Those who resist will be eliminated. You have one of your solar days to respond." The transmission ended. Zakthal expected to receive a desperate plea for mercy within hours. Instead, he got something very different. On Earth, President Kim stood in the command center deep beneath the Swiss mountains. Around her, screens showed the positions of every ship in the Dominion fleet. She had waited 18 months for this moment. "Admiral Martinez, are our forces ready?" she asked. Martinez nodded from his position on the Luna command station. "All units are in position, Madam President. The Dominion has deployed exactly as we expected." "Dr. Vasquez, is the quantum destabilizer operational?" Elena's voice came from the hidden base on Europa. "All weapons are armed and ready, Madam President." President Kim took a deep breath. "Send our response to the Overlord." Message that reached the Dominion fleet was very short. "This is President Sarah Kim of the United Earth Defense Force. We reject your demands. If you want our world, come and take it." Zakthal stared at the screen in surprise. In 300 years of conquest, no species had ever responded with such direct defiance. "Overlord," his tactical officer said, "should we begin orbital bombardment?" "No," Zakthal replied. "I want to understand what makes these creatures so foolish. Move the fleet to attack position. It will destroy their orbital defenses first, then proceed with surface bombardment." The Dominion fleet moved toward Earth, in perfect formation. Their ships were arranged in 3 groups, with the largest vessels in the center and smaller escort ships on the sides. It was a formation that had worked against every enemy they had ever faced on Luna. Admiral Martinez watched the enemy approach. "All defensive platforms prepare to engage. Remember, we want them to think we are weaker than we really are." First battle began when the Dominion fleet reached the orbit of Mars. Luna's defense platforms opened fire with conventional weapons. Laser beams and missile strikes hit the alien ships, but the attack seemed to have little effect. The Dominion shields absorbed most of the damage. "Their defenses are pathetic," Zakthal observed. "Continue the advance." But something was wrong. The human attacks were too weak, too poorly coordinated. Either these creatures were incredibly primitive, or they were hiding something. The Dominion fleet continued toward Earth as they passed. The asteroid belt Captain Luay received his signal. "All ships, this is Wolf Leader," Luay announced to his hidden fleet. "Remember, we are miners. We are scared. We are running away." Luay's ships had been disguised as ordinary mining vessels. When the Dominion sensors detected them, they saw exactly what they expected to see: civilian ships. Trying to escape the battle zone, the Dominion fleet ignored the fleeing miners and continued toward Earth. They had more important targets to worry about. But as the last Dominion ship passed the asteroid belt, Luay smiled. "All ships dropped the disguise, weapons free." The mining ships suddenly revealed their true nature. Hidden weapon bays opened, and advanced human fighters poured out like angry insects. The miners were not running away. They were moving into attack, positioned behind the enemy fleet. At the same time, the asteroids themselves began to move. What the Dominion had thought were ordinary space rocks were actually camouflaged weapons platforms. Hundreds of hidden missile launchers and energy cannons opened fire from all directions. "We are under attack," the Dominion tactical officer shouted. Unknown contacts attacking from the rear. Zakthal spun around to look at his displays. Simple mining ships were firing weapons that could punch through Dominion armor. The asteroids were launching missiles designed specifically to penetrate their shields. "How is this possible?" Zakthal demanded. His answer came in the form of a new transmission from Earth. Dr. Vasquez appeared on his screen, smiling coldly. "Overlord Zacthel," she said. "My name is Dr. Elena Vasquez. 1,200 years ago, your forces destroyed a species called the Thalorians. Before they died, they sent us a message. They told us all about you." Zacthel felt something he had not experienced in centuries: fear. Elena continued. "The Thalorians made the mistake of fighting you with honor. They met you in open battle. They followed rules of war. We will not make that mistake." All around the Dominion fleet, more hidden weapons revealed themselves. What had seemed like empty space was actually full of human forces. Stealth ships, cloaked mines, and disguised platforms attacked from every direction. The Dominion ships tried to return fire, but their weapons were designed for fighting enemies who attacked from the front. They had never faced an enemy that attacked from everywhere. At once, shields failing on the port side, reported the Dominion tactical officer. Hull breaches on decks 7 through 12. More human ships appeared, seemingly from nowhere. These were not the large, slow vessels the Dominion was used to fighting. They were small, fast, and incredibly maneuverable. They darted between the alien ships like sharks, striking at weak points and disappearing before the Dominion could respond. "All ships concentrate fire on the human vessels," Zacthal ordered. But the humans had learned from the Thalorian data. They knew exactly how fast Dominion weapons could turn out, quickly they could target new enemies, and how long their systems took to recharge. The human pilots used this knowledge to stay one step ahead of every attack. A group of human fighters approached the command ship. Zacthel watched them on his screen and laughed. "Tiny ships attacking us. Their weapons cannot possibly hurt a vessel this size." The fighters opened fire, but they were not using conventional weapons. Instead, they launched devices that attached themselves to the Dominion ship's hull. "What are those?" Zacthel asked. His science officer checked the readings. "Unknown technology, Overlord." The devices appeared to be, "Overlord, you need to evacuate the bridge immediately." The quantum destabilizers activated all at once. The devices Elena and her team had built began tearing apart the atomic structure of the Dominion ship's hull. Massive holes appeared in the armor as the metal simply ceased to exist. "Impossible," Zacthal screamed as his ship began to break apart around him. Throughout the fleet, the same thing was happening. The Dominion had expected to fight primitive humans with simple weapons. Instead, they found themselves facing an enemy that had studied them for 18 months and designed every weapon specifically to kill them. The battle that should have been a simple conquest became a nightmare of human tactics, Thalorian technology, and pure human determination. For the first time in their history, the Dominion was losing. The battle for Earth's solar system lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Dominion fleet was destroyed. 300 massive ships that had conquered 17 species were now floating debris around Earth's sun. Only a handful of small escape. Pods had managed to flee into deep space, but for humanity, the victory was just the beginning. Admiral Martinez stood on the bridge of the new human flagship Thalorian's Revenge. Through the windows, he could see the wreckage of Overlord Zacthel's command ship. The alien leader had died when his vessel broke apart, but not before sending a final transmission to other Dominion forces across the galaxy. "Admiral, we have decoded the Overlord's last message," reported Lieutenant Chen. "He sent our location and tactical information to the main Dominion fleet." Martinez nodded grimly. "How long before they arrive?" "Our best estimate is 2 years, sir. But this time they will send everything they have." President Kim appeared on the communication screen from Earth. "Admiral, has the War Council reached a decision?" "Yes, Madam President. We cannot wait for them to come to us again. We must take the fight to them." The decision had not been easy. After the battle, humanity faced a choice. They could prepare better defenses and wait for the next Dominion attack. Or they could do something that no conquered species had ever done before. They could hunt down their enemies and destroy them completely. The choice became clear when Dr. Vasquez made a terrible discovery. Elena floated in zero gravity inside the captured Dominion science ship. She and her team had been studying alien technology for weeks. What they found made her sick to her stomach. President Kim, you need to see this, Alina said during the emergency video conference. On her screen were the files from the Dominions. Central computer. The files contained records of every species the aliens had conquered. But they were not just military records. They were detailed plans for something much worse. The Dominion does not just conquer species, Alina explained. They study them. They take genetic samples. They learn how each species thinks and fights. Then they use this information to create better weapons for conquering the next species. President Kim felt cold as she looked at the files. You mean? They use the knowledge from dead civilizations to kill new ones. Exactly. Every species they destroy makes them stronger. And now they have detailed information about human tactics, human technology, and human biology. General al-Rashid leaned forward in his chair. What are you saying, Doctor? I am saying that if we let them escape and regroup, they will come back with weapons designed specifically to kill humans. They will know exactly how to defeat us. The War Council met for 3 days. Scientists, military leaders, and politicians from every nation on Earth debated humanity's next move. Some argued for building stronger defenses. Others wanted to try negotiating with other alien species. But in the end, they all agreed on one thing. The Dominion could not be allowed to survive. General al-Rashid stood before the assembled leaders. The Dominion has been conquering species for thousands of years. They have grown strong by feeding on the deaths of peaceful civilizations. Now it is time for them to face a species that is not peaceful. The plan they created was simple and terrible. Humanity would not just defend Earth. They would hunt down every Dominion ship, every Dominion base, and every Dominion world. They would use the aliens' own conquered territories against them. And they would not stop until the Dominion no longer existed. Captain Lu Wei was given command of the first human fleet to leave the solar system. His ships were equipped with faster-than-light drives built from captured Dominion technology. But these were not the slow, obvious vessels the aliens were used to fighting. Remember, Lu Wei told his captains during their final briefing, "We are not conquerors. We are The Dominion showed no mercy to the Thylorians or any other species. We will show them the same mercy they showed to others." Human fleet reached the first Dominion outpost 6 months after leaving Earth. The base was built on a frozen moon orbiting a gas giant. It controlled shipping routes for 3 star systems and housed 50,000 Dominion soldiers. The aliens never saw the attack coming. Human ships appeared from multiple directions at once, using stealth technology that the Dominion could not detect. The base's shields went up, but they were designed to stop the weapons of conquered species. They were not designed to stop weapons built specifically to kill Dominion forces. The battle lasted 20 minutes. When it ended, the base was a smoking crater, and every Dominion soldier was dead. Lu Wei's ships had taken no casualties, but the humans did something the Dominion had never expected. Instead of leaving, they stayed. They sent messages to every conquered species in the nearby systems. The message was simple: the Dominion is finished. Join us and be free, or stay neutral and live in peace. But anyone who helps our enemies will share their fate. Response was immediate. Species that had been enslaved for centuries rose up against their Dominion masters. Rebellions broke out on dozens of worlds. The aliens who had seemed invincible suddenly found themselves fighting enemies on every front. Dr. Vasquez worked from a mobile laboratory aboard one of the human fleet ships. Her job was to study captured Dominion technology and turn it into weapons. But she also had a more personal mission. She was creating a virus, not a biological virus, but a computer virus designed specifically for Dominion systems, using the technical knowledge from the Thalorian message. She had built a program that could infect any Dominion computer and spread to every connected system. "Alina, are you sure this will work?" Dr. Park asked from his own ship. "The Dominion connects all their systems together," Alina replied. "They think their technology is so advanced that no one could hack it. They are about to learn how wrong they are." The virus was released during an attack on a major Dominion communications hub. Within hours, it had spread to every connected system in that part of the galaxy. Dominion ships lost navigation, weapons systems failed, and their central Command networks went dark. But the worst part for the Dominion was not the technical failures. The worst part was the fear. For thousands of years they had been the hunters. Now they were the prey. Human fleets appeared without warning, struck with devastating force, and disappeared before reinforcements could arrive. Conquered 17 species found themselves unable to defend their own territory. The final battle took place at the Dominion homeworld, a massive planet surrounded by orbital fortresses and defense stations. This was where the alien empire had started, and this was where it would end. Admiral Martinez commanded the combined human fleet from the bridge of Thylorian's Revenge. Around him were ships from every nation on Earth, crewed by volunteers who understood that this battle would decide the future of the galaxy. "All ships, this is Admiral Martinez," he announced. "Today we finish what the Thylorians started. Today we make sure that no other species will ever face the choice between slavery and extinction." The battle was fierce and brutal. The Dominion threw everything they had at the human fleet. But they were fighting an enemy that had learned from their own victims. Every tactic they used, every weapon they fired, had been studied and countered by human scientists working with Thylorian data. When the last Dominion fortress fell, Admiral Martinez opened a communication channel to the entire galaxy. His message was broadcast on every frequency, in every language that the translation computers could manage. "This is Admiral Chen Martinez of the Human Defense Fleet," he said. "The Dominion Collective no longer exists. Their ships are destroyed, their bases are captured, and their leaders are dead. Any species they conquered is now free. Any territory they claimed is now available for peaceful colonization." He paused, looking directly into the camera. "But let this be a warning to anyone else who might think about following the Dominion's path. Humanity remembers its friends and its enemies. We will help those who ask for help. We will trade with those who want to trade. But if anyone threatens innocent species with conquest or extinction, they will face the same fate as the Dominion." Vasquez watched the transmission from her laboratory. In her hands was the original Thylorian message that had started everything. The desperate plea from a dying civilization had become the foundation for the galaxy's new order. "We remember you," she whispered to the long-dead aliens, "and we made sure your sacrifice was not in vain." The galaxy was quiet now. Species that had lived in fear for generations could finally build peaceful civilizations. The trade routes that had been controlled by the Dominion were open to everyone. And somewhere in space, human ships patrolled to make sure it stayed that way. Earth had received an SOS from across the stars. Their response had been total eradication of the threat. But more than that, it had been the promise that no other species would ever face extinction alone. Humanity had become the galaxy's new guardians. They would never forget the lesson they had learned from the Thylorians. Sometimes the only way to protect the innocent is to completely destroy those who threaten them.